Good. Well, first I want to thank everybody here for coming. It's a hot afternoon outside in the middle of the day. It's pure coincidence that we're holding this event on the day when the IPCC Working Group 2 has just released its report on the impacts of climate change and on the adaptation strategies, and really highlighted the implications for Asia and for this region, particularly with the combination of rising sea levels, storms, other impacts in this region. And so I think it's very, very appropriate to be talking about some of these issues here today. I'd like to thank Ashvin Dayal for agreeing to be a discussant and then to lead some of the discussion after this. We'll run through the presentations one by one, just together. It's really an integrated story. The project that we're working on is really, my apologies there. It's about the impacts of storms on shelters, what one can do. It's typhoon resilience in Vietnam, which was a project led by Phong Tran from Hue University and from ISET looking at that. And part of it supported on implementation by Rockefeller Foundation. The research that we're talking here supported by the CDKN. It's on flood resilience, our colleague BJ Singh from Gorakhpur Environmental Action Group leading there. And it's on temperature issues in Pakistan, led by Fawad Khan, with a lot of the background work on climate done by Ken McClune here. This, I think, is the core set of messages here. Asia is particularly at risk. Again, the context of the IPCC Working Group 2 coming out. The themes that come out of that: coastal areas, storms, floods, sea level rise, and temperature, changes in temperature. But it isn't just about climate. It's about this context of rapidly growing cities. It's critically about the question of large vulnerable populations, the groups who are moving into these urban areas. And it's about fragile systems. We are focusing on shelter in this, but it's also important to recognize that a lot of the discussion and a lot of the physical things relate to energy systems as well, to food, to water, that the question of resilience in core systems is absolutely central across these. So where we talk about shelter, that's critical, but it's also relevant to recognize the wider context. Some of the key findings coming out of what we're talking here. It's what I'd call that there are potential solutions, large solution spaces. There are at least partial solutions that are readily accessible around floods and extreme storm events. If you look just in the sheltering space, in the question of housing design, building design, and who's doing it, there are designs and technologies that are not rocket science, that are readily available. And as you'll hear from these sets of studies, these are effective and they have high economic returns even under current climate conditions. This is not something about the future, it's something about now. But there are some problem spaces as well. There's real innovation required to address some of the increases in temperature that are being projected, particularly in conjunction with humidity. This program, I want to really emphasize how collaborative it's been. It's not just ISET doing, it's building off a whole set of other people's work, partner organizations. We're really pleased to have Bijay Singh here. It's his first trip out of India. Led work on the economics in India. Really pleasant to have that level of commitment to come out. But it's a wider group as well. This is particularly focused on the economics, the costs and benefits, because that's a central argument that needs to be made to finance ministries if resources are going to be devoted to that. And it is a part of a larger set of activities. We have been working on urban climate resilience under ACERN, the Asian Cities Climate Resilience Network that's supported by Rockefeller. We've been working under the Embrace project here in Thailand and in Vietnam, supported by USAID. We've been working on resilience in food systems with IISD and others out of CDKN, and there's information there. And then we've been working very heavily on disaster resilience in India and Pakistan as well, with specific programs with the government. So it's part of a larger set of things, and the websites may not be coming through as well, but anybody who's interested in the presentation can get it. And there's a lot of materials on this coming out that's of direct relevance. So now I'd like to call our first speaker, Dr. Phong Tran from Vietnam and Hue University and ISET International.
Thanks, Marcus, and good afternoon, everyone. Last year, the typhoon hit the Asia quite a lot. Typhoon Nari hit central part of Vietnam, caused a lot of damages. And Typhoon Yolanda or Haiyan hit Tacloban and hit the Philippines. So one of the most damaged sector is the housing. So today I'm going to share with you some experience from the research project on the cost-benefit analysis and also our resilient housing program in Da Nang, one of the cities in central part of Vietnam. So Da Nang is one of the most dynamic and very rapid urbanization. Da Nang located in the coastal city and prone to the typhoons and the floods. And you know, Vietnam's moved to the market economy since early 1990. And ironically, the more invest into the housing is more risk. Why is this? I'm going to share with you some key factors. Because the people believe that invest into the new material is more secure. However, some improper process and improper resilient construction, they may put their house more risk in the context of climate change and flooding under the rapid urbanization. So in this case, the housing in Vietnam for the last 2 decades, a lot of improvement investment, but still lack of disaster, particularly the flood issue, the typhoon issue. As you can see from the map, Da Nang in the northwestern Pacific, and this is often hit by very strong typhoon. And the typhoon normally formulates and hit the Philippines and then hit the central part of Vietnam. And it's located in the downstream of the very big river basin. So it's not only the typhoon, but also the flood in the area. And this is because of the very good beach and natural resources. A lot of high-end and infrastructure developed in the coastal line is very, very vulnerable to the typhoon impact. So what is the key message come from our study and our resilient housing program that is funded by Rockefeller and CDKN? The first message is the storm resistance is cost effective. After the Typhoon Nari, we built 245 houses. Only one house, because the uncompleted at that time, affected. We have the 244 saved from the Typhoon Nari. This is kind of high intensity. And we did the economic analysis. I will share with you some findings later, but very, very cost effective to reduce the climate risk, particularly the typhoon. Second one, effective of the housing resilient, but the mechanism for the people, particularly the poor and near poor, to access to the financial and other technical support still limited. So we need the mechanism or environment so that the poor and near poor people can access to the financial and technical assistance to build or to develop the resilient housing. The third point is housing practice and promotion should be more and more promoted among the political leader, builder, and the local people. There are 3 key points over here. The technique is quite simple, but when they move from the conventional way of material to the new material like concrete, steel bar, they lack of those kind of technique. simple, but we need to promote those kind of technique. Second one, the capacity. The local builder, they know some kind of technique, but some key component of the climate resilience, particularly the housing, they lack of that kind of technique. We need to have some kind of professional in the construction, engineering to work with the local builder, because of most of the poor and near poor housing, they don't have the engineering design or the supervision. The third one is knowledge. Climate change is now the big issue, and the people need to be aware of the increasing climate impact and the flooding. This is the key information we need to disseminate, because the more impact in the future if they don't aware of this. In Da Nang, as I already mentioned, this is not just only floods, typhoon, but also flood. But we more focus on the typhoon. Why? Because in Vietnam, the floods issue, the people, they have autonomous adaptation 1,000 years. Vietnam live with the floods. So the housing with the flood is kind of less damaged compared to the typhoon, because the typhoon is unpredictable and very strong recently, and the new material, they don't keep up with those kind of technique to reduce the damage, particularly the roof of the housing in the city. Recently, the best model, the global circulation model and also the regional model, they could not predict or give some kind of prediction for the typhoon. There are some bad model for rainfall, but typhoon is quite problematic, because some inconsistent, some model show the increase in the intensity and frequency, but some model show that decrease in the frequency. So in this one, we use the high resolution model from the IMHAN, one of the national government's entity who released this kind of model for last year. It means that it's not just about the climate alone. We need to move beyond that to do some analysis for the housing sector. In order to conduct the economic analysis, we combine our CDKN with our housing resilience with the CDKN and the Rockefeller. So we conduct the design competition. And this is the key component in this study. So we apply the resilient component on the housing, like safe failure, flexibility, and redundancy in the housing. I will explain later in next slide. But the key component, how to keep with the culture, how to familiar and get with the humidity and also the tropical climates, and also the living in the dynamic urbanization in Da Nang. So we if you look outside of the house, it's not much different from the current housing. But you look inside of the house, a lot of key features of the climate resilience, like this one, this part. Is the rigid house. If the strong typhoon comes to Da Nang, this should be safe for the people who live in here. We cannot design the house can resist any kind of level of typhoon. That is too expensive. So we design the house that can resist to the typhoon about category 12 in Vietnam. It means Cat 1 in the US. And have some flexibility and have some kind of other component, like the overhang should be reduced to reduce the negative impact of the windfalls. So with that, we did the cost-benefit analysis. So the increasing amount of the resilience is about 30% compared to the non-resilient housing. But when we invest in that, we see the cost-benefit ratio over here. So we have the two kind of scenario, because we cannot give the frequency and probability of the typhoon. So we did here two scenarios. The first scenario, that without climate change, it means that the climate change in the next 25 years, the 25 years is the lifespan of the house, similar to the typhoon for the last 25 years. And another scenario is the climate change increase in intensity. So for the last 25 years, we have two main typhoons. One typhoon in 2006 and one typhoon in 2009. Typhoon in 2006 is quite high level, category 1. And we, in the climate change scenario, we assume that there are two typhoons, the same like typhoon in 2006. So you can see over here, the cost benefits is quite high, 1.9, and with climate change, 1.36. And this is the average number. If the typhoon occur in the early stage of the house, like if we build the house and the typhoon occur, and then the cost benefits result even higher number. So that is we need to consider in the benefits of the housing. So what come from here? Some key implication over here. The first one is household level. So it's worthwhile for invest in the household level for the climate resilient housing. This is everybody know, but why still in the region? Why still the poor and middle income could not make it widely or scale up and scale out many other areas? Second one is public policy. We need to develop some mechanism so that the people who can access the finance or technology or other mechanism like insurance. So if we can create some kind of insurance and some premium so that who apply the resilient housing technique can have this kind of insurance so that we can enable those kind of resilient housing occur. And of course now many kind of disaster and housing is should not only typhoon but also flood resilient because there's some component resilient to typhoon but not resilient to flood. So we need to consider the multi-hazards. And improving awareness is very important. Now climate change, and we know that just really about the working group of the AR5 and increasing the intensity of the typhoon and floods. So we need to have some awareness raising for the local people as well as the manager and the decision maker in the city level. And of course, as I already mentioned, the poor and near poor, they rarely apply the engineering housing design, but we need to have some kind of promotion for them to apply safety-related costs and guidelines. So that is the key message come from resilient housing. We work with the women unions at the city level under the Rockefeller and also the climate resilient cost-benefit analysis support by city again. So thank you very much for your listening.
Thank you, Phong. I think that was very well presented. I think the message out of that is that there's really effective things you can do around the typhoons, but up, at the level of Category 1, Category 2, or Category 12 here commonly. Once you get above that, you may have a threshold around that. Now, I'd like to introduce Bijay Singh to make his presentation in a very different context. Gorakhpur, central India, is one of the less wealthy sections of India. The interest in the Vietnam case is that's a middle-income country. It's stuff that can be done with a bit of financing. But question of where there's much less finance available, a place like Gorakhpur is very illustrative. So, Bijay, it's your turn.
Thank you, Marcus. Good morning to all of you. Good afternoon to all of you. First of all, I would like to thank to ICET for providing me the opportunity to present the findings of India case study with you peoples. The present study, as Marcus has stated, that was conducted in Gorakhpur, which is one of the emerging city in eastern Uttar Pradesh and is located in the northern part of the Middle Ganga plain. Like other emerging city in India, the Gorakhpur is also experiencing a huge in-migration from its rural counterpart, and due to this huge migration, they are creating a very tremendous pressure on the urban infrastructures and also creating unplanned development in the city. And during the process of study, we have observed that during last 3 decades, there is drastic climate change, especially in the rainfall patterns and minimum maximum temperature during the summer seasons. And due to this change in climate and urban land use, there are several issues there raising the incidence of flood, waterlogging, vector-borne diseases, and also causing huge losses of assets in both at individual and also in community levels, and also raising a questions of housing safety to the urban planner. This is the map of Gorakhpur. you can see that there are two rivers flowing from the western part of the city and making the western boundary of the city. One is from Rapti River, and another one, this is flowing from north, that is the Rohin rivers. And the previous photo which I have shown, it was of Rasulpur area. This is top one. Sorry. Indicators one. Which one is the indicator? Yeah, this one. It is going back.
Sorry, this got turned around. There's that one.
Okay. Sorry. Yeah. The Rasulpur is located in the central part of the city, and this is the area where huge waterlogging is taking place for more than 2 to 3 months, and other the important centers that which is showing in the maps are also suffering from acute waterlogging for more than 2 to 3 months. The major important lesson that we have learned during the process of research is that the investment in resilient shelter is cost effective when compared to the post-disaster recovery measures. The second important message that we have that there are some resilient options which are feasible at cost below the current construction practices. The resilient designs and material innovations are very important for replication in different physical and cultural contexts. And the most important, that last one, is that awareness about the resilient design is also very important for replication. And here I would like to say that in Gorakhpur, at the lower level, there is a lack of knowledge about the resilient designing. So educating and empowering the builders and local individuals is the very easy way to replicate the inferences of resilient designs. Here, on the basis of historical and climate model data, we have tried to make this graph, and during the analysis of the climate information, we observed that in coming years, the rainfall pattern is going to be increased in Gorakhpur. Definitely, if the rainfall is going to increase, then the flood level will go high, and this rising flood level will definitely affect the structural and asset losses. Here, during the study, we have also recognized the local adaptations measure which the communities are being using in their housing. The most important and common ones are, these are the common ones, the raised plains. They are raising their plains of houses to reduce the impact of waterlogging. They are making hooks on roof. They are making almirah constructions and concrete shelf. And you can see in the photographs that how far the local peoples are raising their plinth levels. This is the design which we have from our national level design competitions. This design is very innovative in itself because it has involved very innovative technology, and also promotes the use of local resources for making the houses. The most important characteristic that has been highlighted here, that the retro bond technology which are being using for constructing the wall, and this technology has the feature that it reduces the cost 20% cost of brick consumptions, and also it is useful in hot temperature because it enables the temperature insulation. Jolly wall, this is the This is the jolly wall. these are useful for making the ventilation, and it also enables the source of light in the house during the daytime, because in Gorakhpur it is very relevant, because in Gorakhpur there are frequent load shedding for more than 8 to 9 hours. The third the important features of the design is that the raised plinth, or you can say that corbelling, the most important feature of corbelling is that it uplifts the entire house up to the highest flood level, and also provide space for flood water to move freely from beneath the house. And the total design is of modular type, so a similar type of a structure can easily be retrofitted with each other. In this table, we have tried to estimate the BC ratio of different risk reduction measures adopted by the peoples, and also the resilient design in two different scenarios, with climate and without climate. And you can see that all the community adapted measures have high economic returns also, and the design and resilient designs have also showing the better economic returns. As far as the policy implication of the research is that, both, as I have already shown, that the resilient designs are cost effective, and in this study, though we have just focused on the flood, but there are some intangible benefits are also, such as health and security benefit to women and children, and we have not considered these benefits in our study. And if we include this benefit, then definitely the BC ratio will go much higher. At the policy level in India, the access to affordable finance, training or awareness about the resilient designs and the innovations of materials and technologies are the most important key barrier in accessing the flood or resilient storm designs. So the recommendations of the research would be helpful in a very effective way, because government is already investing lots of money in the houses. So if these resilient designs are incorporated in their development planning or housing programs, then in long run it would be a good profitable business. Thank you. All this.
Thank you, BJ. Do you want to move it one further? There we go. Thank you, BJ. I think, to me that illustrates very strongly the point that some of these solutions, these elements of solutions, are traditional things people are already doing. But it also points out the point that raising plinth, things like that, which are traditional, make a big difference. But they make a big difference if you don't just do the infill. Filling it in costs 30% and blocks the water. It's the design elements that let it go out that make a difference in resilience. Now, Fawad Khan, Pakistan case study. A little bit of a change of message.
Well, hi everyone. Thanks, Marcus. So far the news is relatively good. But when we started looking at temperature,